Hello, this is Mrs. Ringrose and we are back at it again. This is my third time trying this video because my audio kept going out. So if you lose my voice, just finish up copying the notes. This shouldn't be a very long video. We're going to talk about congruent triangles so that we can eventually prove when triangles are congruent. And before we can do that, we want to talk about all the different pieces of congruent triangles. So hopefully you have this piece of paper out and let's get started. So congruent triangles are triangles that have the same size and shape. You can have triangles that have the same shape, such as two equilateral triangles, but one can have sides of 2 centimeters and one can have sides of 10 centimeters each, so they're not the same size. This means that all their corresponding parts are also congruent. And when we talk about corresponding parts, that of course again is when you pick up one triangle, you lay it on the other, and the parts that match up are congruent. So that means that sides and angles are congruent. All right, the next box talks about the congruency statements. We talked about that last class. Hopefully, that's enough to get you going. And then, and what's important about the congruency statement, again, is that they match up. So looking at the diagram, A is the same as D, and they both maintain the first position. B is the same as E, and they match up in the second position. And then C is the same as F, and so they both match up in the last position. And you can move those around as long as those letters match up, so then you're good. So Cpctc is the next thing I want to briefly talk about. You're going to be hearing this a lot. And I don't really want you using the acronym unless you really know what it stands for. I would much rather you use abbreviated words and symbols to help convey that meaning than just memorizing an acronym. It stands for corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So I'd much rather use the congruent symbols in place of those congruent words and then the triangle symbol, and you can really cut down, all that wordage if that's a concern. And so I'm not going to do that many of the examples with you. I'm sure you guys can figure it out. Of course, a triangle has 6 pieces because they have 3 angles and 3 sides. So that's why we can list all these congruency statements. So again, you're going to go based on the position. So if you're going to talk about angle J first, then you have to talk about it's congruent to the thing that's also first in line. Angle K is going to match up with the thing in the middle, which is angle Q. And angle L is going to match up with angle R. And then the sides, you're going to do something similar. So JK is going to be congruent to PQ because they're both first. So that's this and this. And then KL and QR would be next. And then finally LJ and RP. So I'm going to let you do number 2, practice that. Oh, before I go on, it talks about having another valid congruency statement. So that would be rearranging the letters. So we're going to do triangle LKJ is congruent to triangle RQP. But there's 4 other different unique congruency statements because I'm pretty sure you can do 6 different ones, if my math is right. All right, number 3, I'm not going to complete it with you, but you can, based on these congruency statement, I would put in some congruency symbols for yourself, and that's going to make your answers a little bit easier, I think. And then you're responsible for this back page before you leave today. And again, you have these congruency statements, so I would probably put in some tick marks. ST is going to be the same as BF. TW is going to be the same as FN. And then SW is going to be the same as BN. And that's going to make finding the numbers that you're supposed to put in a lot easier. So BN for part A, I'm going to match that up with WS, and that would make this 9 centimeters. TW is going to be the same as FN. That's going to make this 14 centimeters. You absolutely don't have to put in the tick marks, but I mean, I like to mark up diagrams, so that's what I like to do. And then I'm going to jump down to number 6, get you started on that one. Again, you have some congruency statements, so you can put in some tick marks if you want. UV is going to be the same as TS, and so on. And so I have an equation I can write, 12x minus 7, set that equal to 53, and then solve for x. So x is 5, and then you should tell me what all your other guys are. So I hope this is a good introduction to congruent triangles, and we're going to be spending the rest of the time until Christmas break on these kind of things and proving that triangles are congruent when we know other triangles are congruent, so it's tons of fun. All right, thank you very much.